yeah, as you are saying, for our records. Okay, I think we can, yeah, we can start while people are joining. It's, yeah, I don't want to make everyone waiting. Thank you for those who joined very early. And thank you also for Suha for giving me this chance to be with her on this meeting and have a chat with her. And I'll try not to yeah, have the monopoly of questions. I hope the others also are invited to ask as many questions as you want. So welcome to all. And as I might remind the purpose of this call, which is this meeting, which is called Ask Me Anything, is really to have a chat and a friendly and informal conversation with Suha, to get to know her and know her context and the work she is doing in education emergencies. And I'm really grateful to her for giving us this time. So don't hesitate to ask your questions, whether, yeah, you can raise your hand or you can write your questions in the chat, or also you can use our community of practice channel dedicated for Ask Me Anything, which is on Slack. So please, you can have as many questions as you want, and as the different formats that you prefer, and you are all welcome. So I will maybe kickstart with the first question to Suha, and this is the simplest and always the first question. I would ask you, Suha, to tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, your work. I know that you have 30 years experience almost in education, so tell us a little bit more about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ola. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Peter, for also taking care of us. I've been, as Dr. Ola was saying, I've been in education for a long time. I started off as a teacher, teaching elementary, and then I slowly went into training of teachers and management. And then for a long time, I worked in an area in Lebanon in the north that is considered an area where there are vulnerable children there. And I thought to myself, this is something I should have been doing a long time ago, working with the vulnerable youth and children, because they're the ones who are being left out at the end of the day. So I shifted my whole career and passion, maybe became a passion into working with vulnerable youth. And as I was working with them, I also realized that there is no inclusivity in Lebanon with our children who have some challenges in education, whether it's on the autism spectrum or any other form of challenge that they might face. So my sister and I started a small NGO, consultancy and advocacy for remedial education, where we advocate and encourage inclusiveness in education throughout all the schools and communities in Lebanon. And then a few years later, I started with Jusoor. And I must say, INE helped me a lot when I worked with Jusoor, which Jusoor is an NGO that works with refugees, Syrian refugees in particular, and now vulnerable Lebanese as well, since the blast and the economic crisis. And of course, all of this was pretty new to me, but well, I got introduced to INE and I found wonderful tools on the platform, and I met wonderful people. They taught me a lot, and I learned a lot from them. And this is how I was able to move on with our programs and our projects in Jusoor, which started with basic education, and now during COVID, we also had to resort to teaching through WhatsApp, because this is the only means that the children had phones. And it kept on changing, crisis from crisis. So every time something came up, we had to make changes accordingly. I've been with Jusoor for around nine years now, nearly 10, and we have educated over 10,000 children plus in our 10 years with Jusoor, all vulnerable youth. So I'm really very proud of the teachers and their hard work that the teachers have done, helping the children and moving them forward. Hopefully, some of them have really made a good life of themselves after 10 years. They're at university, some of them are working, a few of them are working at Google, some are working as teachers, we have a few who are, we have one or two are working in psychology now. And we have quite a few who are still in school. Hopefully they will find their way as well. I won't talk a lot about what we're doing. Open the door for questions if anyone has any questions, and then we'll get the ball rolling when I answer the questions that my colleagues will have.
Of course, thank you very much, Suha. Is anyone raising their? Yeah, we are not many yet. I hope people will manage to join.
It's okay.
Yeah, no problem. So so there's a question from Heather. Can you share more about your teachers? Are they also from the refugee community? What kind of training do you do for them? So
sure.
Yeah,
thanks, Heather. Thanks, Heather. Good to see you.
I know a few of them myself.
Yes, sure. Dr. Ala worked with us. I mean, she did a study and she was with us for a while when we were first starting. Most of the teachers are from the Syrian community, and only maybe less than a half, so maybe 5 of them, or maybe 4 or 5 who were actually teachers when they were in Syria before they were displaced. But the majority had not taught before. And this is why, Heather, we had to work a lot on training the teachers on how to teach in contexts where there are vulnerable youth, how to do a lot of activities in the classrooms, how to use ESL while they're teaching, and yet at the same time making sure that we are taking care of the teachers, because they were refugees, they are still refugees themselves. So you have to keep in mind that they still have to go into the classroom and put this, courageous smile on their face and walk in and pretend, everything is normal for the children's sake, when for them themselves, they are facing many challenges. So when we were working on developing their teaching skills, so that they become more learner-centered rather than teaching-centered, we could not and should not forget that they themselves need a lot of help with psychosocial well-being. And so when we had a counselor, when Dr. Ola started, we didn't have a full-time counselor, if you remember. We hired a full-time counselor, and she worked very closely with the teachers, because they were the ones who are taking care of the children. So if they weren't being taken care of themselves, how are we expected to take care of the children? It's not fair. And so we did a lot of work with them on something called the ICDP, the International Child Development Program, that is developed in Norway by a psychologist, and it focuses on the adults who are working with vulnerable youth. We gave those sessions to them, and the counselor was always there to talk to them, encourage them, even in the evening on Zoom or on WhatsApp. But we did a lot of training, and the first part of the training was based on the INEE toolkit that was available for us to work on that. And we could see, I mean, the challenge was for us to get the teachers out of the teacher-centered approach, because this is what they were used to, and that's what they were taught in their schools. And so when they want to teach, they will copycat their teachers. And so this is a challenge, getting them out of this circle into trying to think of how am I going to actively involve the children and make sure that they are learning what we're supposed to be teaching them.
Yes, thank you so much.
Ross has a question.
Yeah, Ross. Yeah, he asked a question while you were away. So
hi,
yeah,
Suha. I mean, me and my mum, you took us to the schools in the Bakar twice, and very, very vivid memories. But my question was, I mean, Jusoor does these wonderful things with the scholarships and the high flyers, but it's a kind of theoretical question because I know everything's just messed up now, but you know, in Jusoor's model, what happens to the, you know, 14-year-old boy that's been through your schools, and what have you given him? Or, you know, the non-high flyers. I wasn't a high flyer, and
Neither was I.
but I would have liked to have gone to your schools.
Thanks, Ross. It's good to see you. Hope your mom's okay.
She's fine.
Yes, a very good question, a very important question, Ross, because not all of them continue in the education, in their education. Some of these boys, I'm saying boys because this is the case for boys mostly, and then I'll talk about the girls that are 14, 15. They end up working. And mostly it's because their parents want their financial support. And the only way they can get this money is by sending the boys to work, and they'd rather send the boys rather than the girls. But what we're doing with these young boys who are going to work is that we learned from the WhatsApp learning, because we were doing during COVID, the children were learning on their phones. We would send them their work via a small video on the WhatsApp, or we take a picture of a worksheet and the teacher would send a voice message on how to work with it. And then the children would work with this, take a picture of their work and send it back to the teachers so that the teachers could follow up on how well the children were doing. Or they would send a voice message. So we said, all right, what are we going to do with this model? We're back into in-person learning now. We don't have WhatsApp anymore, but let's utilize the WhatsApp learning and keep the children who are now working learning. Even if they're working, fine, we understand they have to work, we understand that they have to help out, especially with the financial situation. Even Lebanese children, there was a big article in the newspaper the other day that a lot of 15, 16-year-olds are dropping out to work because of financial constraint in Lebanon. So what we've done, we've kept the WhatsApp groups for these young boys, basically, and girls too. We'll talk about the girls in a while. And we keep on sending them work through WhatsApp that they can do in the evening when they come home from work, and some of them during the weekend when they're not, some of them work as waiters or in a grocery shop and they get Sundays off. So on Sundays when they're home, they open their phones and they do the work. Or at least we give them some sort of functional academics that they can work on. They can read a sign, they can read a notice, they can read a prescription. Probably they'll never go to school, but at least, and we give them on top of that some hints on how to stay safe on the streets, how to say no to peer pressure, how to keep themselves safe from being, dragged into drug use or being physically abused or sexually abused. We work a lot on that so that they feel safer when they're working on the streets. This is the solution we were able to find for those who do not continue with us. For the girls, it's a slightly different story. The girls who leave, either because they're getting married or because they have to take care of their smaller siblings because their mother and father have to go to work. So they end up doing the babysitting for their younger sibling. And so we do the WhatsApp learning with them as well. So when their parents come home in the evening, they can open their WhatsApp, their phones, and continue doing a bit of reading, writing, some arithmetic, some life skills, some budgeting, home economics, that will at least keep them functioning in life.
Thank you. So this is
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Peter has a question.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? Really, really impressive, as Ross said. Is there a special are there special teaching staff who are taking care of those sorts of extracurricular students, or is it the teachers themselves from the classes they were in who are still following up with those students?
Yeah, good question. Excellent question, because our teachers have had a lot of experience for a year using WhatsApp. One of the teachers who was the star, if I may say so, of the WhatsApp learning, what she did is that we got two other teachers who weren't Jusoor original staff. She trained them and she worked with them. And now she mentors them and they are doing it, because we can't have the same teachers who are doing the in person do that as well. I think will be draining the teacher, it will be too much. So yes, we did hire two other teachers who are doing that, but of course we did the training with them before. And we utilize the teachers we have and that we train to do the training. So we want to empower our teachers as well. This is one of the way of empowering them, giving them leadership roles. And so this is what we also did. They did the training for the other teachers who came in and took on and continued with the WhatsApp. I think Emmeline had a question. Her hand was up.
Yeah, please go ahead, Emmeline.
Hello, Suha.
Hi,
I wish I could give you a hug.
Me too, me too.
This is one of the nicest coffee breaks in a long time. Seeing your smile is wonderful.
Thank you.
And I didn't realize that Jusoor was so young when I first met you.
Yeah, we just started. This is our 10th year.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by the work that you've been doing, and maybe it's a bit of a personal question, but like I find that it's very hard, you know, to stay focused on work with everything that's going on around us, and obviously, you know, you're in a region that's even more in a difficult situation. So I was wondering if you know of any, you know, coping mechanisms that your teachers or that yourself use to kind of remotivate yourself and stay engaged.
Very good question.
Sorry?
Very good question.
Yeah.
And very important. The best way, honestly, is for them to have communities within themselves and support each other. And we have a counselor that's always there with the teachers to talk to them, to help them. They can talk to her after hours if they want and reach out to her. But it's very important to have your team members work with you and talk with you, and you know, you vent out with them when you're sitting doing, I mean, not formal, an informal situation setting, I mean, sorry. So this is why we try every once in a while to create like a small, that we had a small activity only for the teachers. They came to school, like some games. We had some cake and cookies, and they sat together and they, you know, they just played, had fun. We also try to support them as much as possible when we feel that they need support, not only with their personal issues at home. I'll give you an example. We have one of our teachers who's a single mom, and she has 4 children. Once a week, the schools that her children go to, they open 2 days, they close 1 day, and then they open another 2 days because for COVID restrictions to clean and vent and so on that day, the teacher can't come to school because naturally she has to be with her 4 children. She can't leave them alone, they're too young. So we have worked around the schedule to give her that day off so she can be at home with her children. It's only fair. We can't also ask her, no, you have to be in school, you have to come. These are your teaching hours, and then drain her on top of the fact that she's a single mom with 4 children, doing a full-time job. So we all pitched in and worked the schedule so that she doesn't have to come in on Wednesdays. That's the day that her just happens to be a Wednesday. And she stays at home and then comes to school on Thursdays, Fridays, and Mondays and Tuesdays. So we have to look out for each other. And we try as much as possible to do it. Sometimes it's very difficult to do because we have so many students, we can't, you know, kind of forget about the students as well. But we try as much as possible. We have every fortnight, we have a teacher learning community or circle. None of us attend, the principals or myself, we don't attend. The teachers sit together and they talk about there's a protocol about a certain challenge that they're facing, and together they help each other, no judgments. So they feel that they're backed up, and we are not there on purpose because we don't want to intimidate them. Our presence might be intimidating. So we try to kind of balance all of those. Plus we still manage, thankfully, for our donors to give them a stipend at the end of every month to keep them going for their livelihood. Try to balance it as much as possible. It's not the perfect scenario, but yeah, we try to do that as much as possible.
And thank you. So as a follow-up question, is it, if you don't mind me, Ola, has it been okay to maintain the funds coming throughout the whole pandemic and well, everything else? It's
been very difficult because, I mean, right now the situation in our country is not sexy anymore, if I may use that word. And so the funds are running low, but we're managing. There are still many people out there who are still helping us out and trying their best to keep, to help not us, help the students, of course, the children, which are the target. Our targets are the children. It's been difficult, but so far manageable.
Sorry, just to follow up on that, Suha, does Jusoor have a significant donor base not in Lebanese lira? Is it foreign currencies you're getting?
Yes, definitely, because in lira it doesn't amount to.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's peanuts now. So we luckily enough, we have in Lebanon what is called, we're allowed to get what they call the fresh dollar account. So you can open an account where you receive fresh dollar and you from abroad. It has to be from abroad, and then you can cash it out as fresh dollars. And honestly, this is what's keeping us going with the fresh dollars that we are receiving, and the inflation rate in the lira. It's kind of balancing out, sadly, but yeah, it's worked in a way for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know Brahmana High School's screaming for foreign currency.
Yeah.
I told someone that a teacher at the school, Brahmana, they're getting the equivalent of $7 a month. Would that be accurate?
No. It would be an equivalent of around maybe $150 maximum.
Right. Yeah. So I was over-egging it. What about your teachers? What are they getting?
No, our teachers are a bit better off because we're paying them in dollar. Because we get the fresh dollar, we are able to pay them in dollar. And so this is really also to, add to what Emily's question, this is also helping out when they have, when they cash it into Lebanese, it's a bit better than what they were earning before, I must say. So
Bravo.
it's working out some sorts. I don't know how long this is going to keep going, but I know a lot of other NGOs that are like us are doing excellent jobs, are also facing the same situation. Like Brian, who's on the call now, works with MAPS, they're also a brilliant NGO, and everyone, we're all facing these issues. But so far, we're floating.
How many teachers do you have in the
46 in our schools that we directly run, but then we have 2 other schools that we indirectly help with the training of teachers. We have also the training where we train teachers, and we go in and we observe the classrooms. I don't like to call it observation, but we go in and we try to see what's going on in the classroom, to mentor the teachers so that they would make some changes and a bit of tweaking here and there so that the learning becomes more child-centered. So a total, I would say, of 60 if we also add the other 2 schools that we are also supporting, one in Beirut and the other in West Bekaa.
Great, thank you. So Brian has something to ask. Please, Brian, come in.
Yeah, yes, please. Hopefully you can hear me. The internet's not great today, and hence the lack of camera. Hello, Suha. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Brian.
Yeah, this is slightly strange because Suha and I do meet occasionally, and so I have lots of chances to ask her questions. But one thing I've always wanted to ask, after 10 years, Suha, what keeps you going? And apologies if that's already been asked, because I
No,
joined
it
late,
hasn't. Good question. I think two things that keep me going. First, it's the fact that we are helping many children who have nothing to do with all of this war. It's not their fault. They got caught in a war that the adults started, not them. And they're victims, if I may use the word victim. It's not a very nice word, but you know what I mean, I guess. And it's not their fault. And if we don't look out for them, who's going to look out for them? Their parents, sadly, a lot of them are not educated. A lot of them have other worries on their plates. And so we need to make sure that these children are getting a brighter future. That's one. Second, I've lived through the civil war in Lebanon. And when I went to school, there was a civil war going on, and we had a lot of interrupted schooling. Many times we'd go to school and then we'd have to go back home or stop school for months on end. Go to the shelter during school times. The library was turned into a shelter, and the lost knows that. And so it was very difficult. And I was surprised that I got an education at the end, honestly, on top of all that what we were going. So I thought, no, that's, I don't want this to happen to other children. And I think this is what keeps me going. And the children and the teachers that we work with, the team we have, and their enthusiasm. I think, well, what I've gone through is nothing in comparison to what the children are going through. So I cannot complain, and I must not complain. I should help. And so this is what keeps me going.
But just kind of following on from that, really, I know not just the children, but many of the staff that you work with are also themselves refugees. So there are many difficult, challenging burdens that your staff are carrying, as well as your students. How does that impact on you? How do you bear that burden? Because all leaders in organizations, to some extent, bear these burdens. How do you look after yourself?
Well, friends, that's for sure. I have lots of friends. You are one of them, Ryan, and we talk, and we vent, and we kind of exchange ideas. I make sure that my weekend is a weekend. I turn off my phone, and I don't respond to emails at all on Saturdays and Sundays at all. It's time for me and my husband, because my children are all long gone now. They're out there in the world. So we try to walk, we try to keep ourselves busy as much as possible with other things that are not related to work. This is my only, and my friends, definitely, this is my solitude. This is the way I am, that keep going. And we've got our counselor at school that I also talk to her every once in a while, also talk about, the issues, the burnout that we feel. It has to come somehow, that we manage as much as possible.
Yeah, this is really great.
Sorry to put you on the spot there.
No way, it's all right, Brian, not at all.
Yeah, this is the purpose, Brian.
Exactly.
Yeah, Emmeline, and then I have a question myself, but first, Emmeline, please.
Thank you, Ola. Yeah, so I remember, and I know that you do activities through arts, and that kind of dynamics. Do you sometimes go and join the art groups and get to, I don't know, paint or create with the children and the teachers? Does it sometimes happen?
Sometimes, but not as often as they should. Because usually when I visit the centers, I'm either working with the teachers or the principals of the schools. But I do with them, we did some theater once together, some activities in the playground when we go out. We do a lot of that as well with them. Not as, I should do it more often though.
That must be fun.
It is fun. I mean, they love it. I mean, we had, I remember last summer we had a watermelon day, and we bought watermelon and we all went out into the garden and we had bit into the watermelon, and the children, they loved it. So we try to enjoy them as much as we can. But when we have activities for the teachers, I'm always there. We always go to these team activities together. And play games together with the teachers more than with the students, actually.
Thank you. So maybe I can come in with my question, which is also related to the teachers. So I've been through different NGOs and different projects, and each time we wanted to test something, we were able to work with Jusoor teachers. So I was always wondering, how do you manage to convince teachers to participate? And don't they feel training fatigue from having all the diversity of training that it is offered to them, and you are accepting that they go through?
Absolutely, very good, yes, definitely. This is why what we do is we don't give all of the teachers the same training. Because if we have teachers who we have quite a few are really good at classroom management, we don't ask them to join the classroom management training. So after we do this, we've been doing it for the past 4 years. We do our usual walk-ins and chats with the teachers, what's going well, what's not working well. We have a list. I have a list of where I think areas that need to be be worked on. I send out these to the teachers. They fill in which ones they want to attend. But there were a few that I asked them to attend because I know that they need it. But in general, they pick, and then they diverse into groups when we have the general training, so that they don't feel that, oh, not another one, we've done this before. We try to do this as much as possible. With the researchers, at one time it was a bit too much, so I had to say no to some of them. But we always make sure that when we do have researchers who come in and work with the teachers on a certain research, that we are learning something as well, that we use that research to learn something that will improve our work with the children for the children's sake. So for example, like around, that was 8 years ago, quite a while ago, one of the researchers, she was working on identity, and she told me, listen, Suha, you've got a problem. The children, my pod keeps on falling off my ear. I think I have small ears, they don't stick. Kept on telling, we have a problem with the children. They don't know where they're from. They think that they're from this village in Lebanon or that village in the Bekaa Valley. And this throws a big, question mark for me, that if we'd like them to go back and they want to go back and rebuild their country and they know nothing about their country. So we incorporated a program into our curriculum called the Identity Program. I don't know if it's the right name to call it, but that's the name that came into my mind, translating it from the Arabic, from Hawiyati. And so in this program, we teach them about Syria, the culture, the diversity. We focus on culture, diversity, the climate, the vegetation, the industry, so that they know that Syria is not only war, there is history there, there's culture. It's an important part of the world. It's where civilization, the Levant area, it's where civilization began. And so that they have pride in their country, and hopefully we teach them about democracy. Of course, we don't tell them democracy is that you have to vote. This is not democracy, but that they have a voice, that we should hear it. We at school, we make sure that we're hearing their voices, listening to what they have to say, and trusting us. So all of this comes into this identity program. that we learned from researchers. So we try as much as possible, Ola, that when we have researchers also to take from them, not just to give them, but it can get a bit too much sometimes. You are right, and this is why now I pick them. I don't just say yes like I used to do everyone. Now I just make sure of picking the right, the ones that we can benefit from as well.
Great.
But it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Yeah, Heather, please. Do you have a question?
Hi, this is wonderful. I'm learning so much. So it's great to meet you. I recently finished my PhD and focused on teacher training and education in emergency. So I'm going to keep going back to teachers.
Come and visit us.
I would love to. I'm actually in Lebanon. So
you are? Would you like to meet up sometime? We can do that.
Yes,
if you want.
I would be delighted to.
Okay, I'll put my number on the chat. You know, Lebanon and WhatsApp.
Yes,
we love WhatsApp.
I will message you on WhatsApp.
Yeah, feel
That
free to message, and if you'd like, come up for a visit and chat with the teachers.
I would love that so much. Thank you so much. I will ask my question though. When you're working on teacher training and development, you mentioned that you also are working with some other schools and supporting them. Are you using a specific like tool or program for your observation and training? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, for our observations, we devise our tool that we didn't invent. We just took here and there, and we tweaked it to what's suitable for our culture and what we do. But a lot of the training that at least the older ones, now most of our teachers have done most of it, was taken from the INE toolkit. INE first, the minimum standards, we do that, and then the TIC, the TI, the teacher in context, yeah, that one. And then, of course, we have friends and researchers and doctors who come visit, and they offer training in certain areas that, for example, when we went on to WhatsApp learning, we had to condense the curriculum. And to be able to do that, the INE were working at that time on ALP programs. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember the name of the person who was.
Yes, accelerated.
God, my memory is terrible. Anyway, and so I got on a call with her, and she gave me some hinters on why we condense, how we condense, and then I took that, and then took this condensing, how to condense and why we condense to the teachers. Worked with them on it. Then we sat in teams and they condensed the curriculum so that we then were able to deliver on our WhatsApp learning tool when we went into COVID. So we lose a lot of this teacher in crisis context, the one that right now Peter is sharing, a lot of that. And as I was saying, our experiences when we do training with others, like Brian has done training, he's also a trainer himself. So we reach out for others to help. When we were doing IT, so the TIC doesn't have IT. Now with COVID, we had to work. So we had to bring another NGO we know about in Lebanon, Tabshura, that works with IT. They did training with our teachers. So we keep on, looking who is able to help us keep the children moving on. And improving the teachers so that they deliver the material, better to the teachers. I don't know if this answered your question, Heather. Okay.
Great. Thank you. So now we have people who will be meeting in person, and I feel jealous.
It's been a long time since you've been in Lebanon.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I came to Lebanon just before COVID, and I spent 3 days. Yes, that's the last time in 2020. No. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if anyone has a question. Otherwise, I can go on with
Peter,
my.
that's important database.
Yes, Ross, please come in.
Yeah, it's just a bit trivial. Well, not trivial. I see the picture behind you, Suha. It looks as though the gentleman's wearing a mask. How's COVID? I mean, is COVID less on the agenda now? Are you?
Yeah.
you
Yeah, it's
you
less on
got
the
some-
agenda. We
Yeah.
tried when we went back to in person to keep, the windows open and the teachers and all the children wearing masks, especially when they're indoors. But it's really strange also. Maybe it's not that the camps, because most of our children come from the camps,
Yeah.
they did not have a big rate of COVID infection.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it was very few,
Yeah.
unless they had it, they didn't know, or they have
Yeah.
an immunity, or because they don't go out much. It's
Yeah.
worth someone studying this strange phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this picture behind me is it's one of the very first that my brother-in-law is a painter. That he was practicing painting and he painted this, and then it's one of his very first. It was forgotten, and when my mother-in-law passed away many years ago, we were cleaning up the room. I found it stuck between the cupboard and the wall. It was fallen. And when I saw it, I told my in-laws, I'm confiscating it. You're not taking it. I framed it and I have it up here on the wall now.
Great. So remind me, this is Mar.
No, I don't know. It's Monk. I don't know.
Okay, so you don't. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I have.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I have
someone.
the name of the saint that is very.
Sherbel, Mar Sherbel, probably.
Mar Sherbel.
A
No,
scholar.
I wouldn't have Mar Sherbel around my house. I don't think, not me at least, not I.
Yeah. Anyway, this is another conversation.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
On the
Thank
side,
you.
that's
Yeah. You said at the beginning that now Jusoor is also starting to support Lebanese kids.
yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? How is it going? Are you mixing kids together? Are you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going as good as we thought it would because of the there is no social cohesion, sadly, in Lebanon between the Syrian community and the Lebanese community at all, and this is really sad. So what we're doing, we are supporting schools that now 2 schools that we support have both Lebanese and Syrian students in the schools. And so we're starting with that. So we support these schools with the training, mostly training and financial support, snacks, healthy snacks for the children, because a lot of them, they only have 1 meal, Lebanese and Syrian alike, 1 meal a day. And it's usually lentil. So we try to provide them with a healthy meal, like an apple, sandwich, labni, cheese, za'atar, definitely an apple or a banana every day with a tomato and a cucumber. So we support them with that because they need to have some kind of food in the stomach to be able to maintain, of course, to be able to work. And try to help the teachers work with the students together with the training that we do for the teachers. So we would like to help even more. We have a homework club in one of the centers in Jibjinin. On weekends, the Syrians who have graduated from Jusoor, they come to us and we do with them their homework and catch-up classes so that we try to keep them in school as long as possible and they won't drop out, like Ross was talking about that a while ago. And so we are also asking the Lebanese students to come in to the school with their Syrian peers, and we'll do it for everyone. But we only had 10 children who joined. We have 250 Syrian coming to the homework club and only 10 Lebanese. I don't know how we're going to try to encourage them to join us, to have more Lebanese join. It's a bit difficult.
It's still very critical.
It's a challenge, yeah.
Yeah. I know that Save the Children Switzerland, they started a program in Lebanon, and I asked the same question, and they are keeping it separated from each
Also,
community.
another challenge that's a bit different from that is inclusivity. It's, my dream is to have inclusive, and we have some students who are wheelchair users, but I would love to have more children who have hearing impairments, severe hearing impairments. We do have some students who have hearing aids and they come to school, or autistic, but they're functional autistic children who we would love to integrate. And so now I'm working with our team on developing a needs assessment to see from the community what are the needs, how many there are, if there are any studies been done on this in Lebanon, and then finding some funds and bringing in more teachers to train them so that we have inclusive classrooms. This is hopefully our next project.
I think you had this question twice this week related to inclusive education. And
yes, someone asked that. You're right.
Yeah, I asked you, and
yes, you did, and exactly,
yeah.
yes.
Please share
so
with
I
us.
don't know. Yeah, if Heather, if you have any information or any studies done on challenged Syrians who have challenges, I don't know. I haven't come across any. I don't know, Brian, if you've come across any.
I haven't seen anything specifically here in Lebanon.
No,
I did my research in Sudan through an NGO that was working specifically in inclusive education. And so I've seen some of their work, but it's a very different context. So
we have been promised some money from a Swiss NGO so that we can do the needs analysis. If we get this money and we can do the needs analysis, then it will be great because we can move from there and see where it's needed and try to get this rolling.
Yeah, it's very under-researched here. Suha, we should have a separate conversation because I've made some connections with a lecturer in inclusive education in Roehampton in London, who's quite keen to come over to as a volunteer to do some training in the Valley. So that might be something that the two organizations could collaborate on.
Oh, perfect, right. Thanks. Yes, we'll get together on that. Maybe Max and Jusoor can do some training with him. Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Makia wants to ask something. Thank you, Brian. We can get back to you if you want, but Makia is waiting.
Hello, Makia.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I want to appreciate what Suha is doing in Lebanon, actually. And I want to say hello to everyone. Really, maybe because for a long time, I'm living in UAE, and now I'm getting back to my home country, Sudan. Also, I am happy that Heather have experience working with NGOs in Sudan because I'm absent for a long time from my country. I really want to just look and reach out for people to help me how we can start. I'm a researcher. I'm a professor at social work department in Sudan at the university, and I need member for a long time. I started 2005, but now when I've come back to Sudan, our situation is very maybe similar to what is going on in Lebanon. Recent time now, I'm trying to just reach even in Sudan to know what is going on inside my country in terms of INE working here. Really, I appreciate your very amazing experiences, Suha. I appreciate that. Also, I want to ask if we can be in contact later after this very useful conversation to just have to exchange some experience, because also we have a lot of obstacles like a power cut on internet service and this kind of stuff. Because if we're turning the learning and try to gather the effort of teachers in this very tough situation, we need also having good power and internet service and this kind of stuff. I just want to say I appreciate and thank you so much, and hopefully we can reach out for more corporate to work together.
Thank you, definitely. Thank you, and good luck, Makia. Definitely, my sister-in-law is from Sudan. I've been once on
Oh,
this
really?
one, a long time ago.
Okay, that's
Yeah, definitely. Feel free. I'm on the INE community on Slack, and I can share
okay.
with you
Yeah,
my
Makia is
definitely.
also, yeah, Makia, you are part of the community, so you can connect to,
Yeah.
Definitely.
to,
Yeah, I'm looking forward,
and
Makia, definitely. Thank you.
I will also
Thank-
connect you to an educator who is originally from Jordan, and she is now based in Sudan, and she was looking also to connect to practitioners. And so I will
Perfect.
connect you to her. And
I will appreciate
yes.
also if you connect me with Heather as well. She's now with us in this conversation. And also I'm looking forward to benefit from her research and what he found in Sudan.
I just sent you my number, Makia, so feel free to
Okay.
message me.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, my number is also on the chat if you want, Makia.
Okay, yeah, please. Thank you so much for everyone.
7171-244.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
You are all
Thank you,
welcome
Suha.
to connect through the community. So it's also a
And
place where
always thank you to you, Ula. Thank you always to you, your effort and your amazing work with INE.
Okay, great. Thank you, Makia. Any other questions? Don't feel shy. It's really, I feel really very enriched, and I'm learning a lot. Although I was thinking that I know also quite well the context in Lebanon, but it's always great to speak to Suha and see her.
Thank you.
Yeah, her energy and yeah, commitment. I don't know if maybe we can have some question, let's say lighter question. I remember once when I was with you, you were telling me when I was conducting a research, you told me, no, tomorrow I'm not working on the coming days because my sons are coming home and I want to cook for them. So what do you really cook for your kids?
They make a huge list.
Yeah, you've told me. So what is that?
They make a big list and they said, Mom, and then I cook them and then they end up eating outside most of the time. And my husband and I, they go into the freezer. Usually it's Arabic food. It's mahshi, kusa, laban immo, laban.
Yeah,
cooked
I know.
with lemon. They like yogurt, cooked yogurt. They love that.
Yeah.
Spaghetti, believe it or not, they love spaghetti, although it's an easy thing. Now two of them are very good cooks. We compete against each other now. So they tell me, Mom, we cook better than you do. So I'm not offended. On the contrary, I taught you how to cook, so fine. I'm very happy.
They should cook for you.
Yeah, exactly. My youngest sometimes does. My youngest son, when he comes over, he sometimes cooks. Because my husband hates to cook. Cooking is against his he doesn't love, but he does everything else. He does the washing. I cook, he washes. So that's fair enough.
Great. This is a good step for an Oriental.
Yeah. He does the ironing and he does the washing.
Yeah. Okay. This would give you more time for just.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I hate ironing.
Yeah,
I make sure that everything is, you hang it and you can just fold it and that's it.
Smart girl.
Yeah. This is
Suha, just going back to the time we visited the Bekaa with you, driving into Stura, and the unfinished Damascus Road, is that still unfinished?
Still unfinished. It's even worse now with the potholes and I don't think they have the money to fix them. I haven't been able to go up yesterday and the day before. O'Brien and I were supposed to go up together, but there was snow and the roads were blocked.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe next week.
So it's not springtime in the Bekaa yet?
No, the winter has been quite long this year. It's still snowing quite heavily. It snowed in Brumana a lot yesterday. A lot of snow.
Oh, I saw snow in Hebron and Khalil in Palestine.
Long winter. Tea, yes. Or I usually have these cup of soup. I make those, it keeps me warm.
Yeah. Yeah. Heather also, are you feeling cold? Yeah.
Ah, good. Yes. Hot water bottle. That's
Okay. I don't know if you want to have anything that you would like to share with us. I will not ask any more questions about
can wrap
work.
it up if you want, Ola.
Yes, and yeah, give us, just share with us.
Thank you. Just to thank you. It was a pleasure seeing some old faces and meeting new people. Hope Makia, you and I can connect, and then Heather, we'll meet, I'm sure, sometime next week in person, hopefully. Yeah, and thank you for being here, and Ola, thank you for doing, sorting all this out and preparing all the work for it, and Peter for your IT. No, it's very early in the morning, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I really appreciate Peter's support and you accepting to come with us during this hour. I know how busy you are, but it was important for me to discuss with someone who, you are working in education emergencies since years, and the crises are just coming one after the other. So
yeah.
So it was personally something meaningful for me, that I come from Syria and I share all the,
yes, of course.
I even value more your work, knowing the sensitivity, as you said, social sensitivity. So I really appreciate what you are doing for the kids from Syria and from. Thank you very much.
Hopefully better days to come.
Hopefully, inshallah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for everyone.
Bye, Emily. Bye.
Meet you next month, maybe with
next month, inshallah. Yes, hopefully.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye,
again, Suha. Great to see you.
Bye. Great to see you too. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.